9 Americans now have died in the U.S. from the coronavirus. That's according to health officials in the state of Washington. This is New York State confirms a second case. With me now, the New York City Mayor, Bill de Blasio. And sir, nice to see you on this Super Tuesday. A lot to talk about and a lot to get to. Yep. How you doing?
Feeling good.
Tell me about the 2 cases in New York. What do we know about that?
Well, we have one who is a healthcare worker, came back from Iran. She seems pretty healthy overall, in her 30s. We think she'll do okay. We got another case that's a little more worrisome, Bill. Older gentleman. Had some pre-existing respiratory conditions. He's now hospitalized in New York City. We're concerned about him.
So the woman who came back from Iran, apparently she flew back here to New York. She was in a private car,
yep.
And she checked herself into a hospital, and then she went home, correct?
No, I understand. She went home when she had symptoms in later days. She reached out to the hospital, went there, got tested, et cetera, came back home, self-isolation. So she's a professional.
So how is it that we see these Americans come off this cruise ship in Japan? Yeah. They go straight to Nebraska because they have a fever. Why is she able to take care of herself at home? Why is that okay?
Because, look, for someone who is reasonably healthy like this, you're going to want them to be in a home setting. Again, here's the thing about coronavirus, according to our healthcare professionals. For most people, it's going to manifest like a cold or the common flu. That's the thing to understand. The vast majority of cases are not this scary unknown disease. They actually play out like something we all know pretty well. So if someone's reasonably healthy, they can be at home. We want to keep them away from everyone else. Just going in a car somewhere is not enough from what we understand to transmit it.
I'm just trying to get the distinction between why you send somebody to a medical facility in Nebraska and why you allow someone to go home in a city of 8 million people.
I think each locale may have its own standards. I mean, obviously, our public health capacity is pretty renowned around the country. But I also think it depends on the condition of the individual. If someone we think is stable, it's a different reality than if someone might not be.
You said yesterday, same-day service in New York.
Yes.
Test kits are adequate in numbers. Are you prepared?
Yes. And the federal government, look, they did some things right, but one thing they really missed the ball on was getting that testing capacity to be as local as possible. We finally have it. It's going to make a world difference, same-day service, and we're going to be building the capacity to do more and more.
What's the plan if you get an outbreak in a city of 8 million? What do we do?
Look, we have to try step by step to stay ahead of it. Today, we have 2 confirmed cases out of 8.6 million people.
Fair point.
You know, I think we have time to prepare, but it's crucial that now we can test and know what's going on.
Let's talk about Super Tuesday. You're a supporter of Bernie Sanders.
Yes, I am.
What happens tonight?
I feel very good, I'll tell you. Look, early voting alone, I think Bernie's done an amazing job with his campaign of reaching those early voters, getting them out. I think the turnout apparatus is being underestimated, Bill, and you saw it in Nevada. Bernie's ground game is far beyond any other candidates. Second, the enthusiasm levels. We see this in all the polling. Bernie voters really care. They're going to show up today, the ones who haven't voted already. I think he's in a very strong position to end the night, or when the voting's finally done, whenever that is nowadays, with a clear delegate lead and to be in the driver's seat. And if it's going to be Bernie versus Joe Biden, which I think it will be, that contrast is extraordinary. For folks who want the status quo, Joe Biden is a great choice. For folks who want to change this country, it's going to be Bernie Sanders. And I think that includes a lot of your viewers. I think there's a lot of working people in this country, a lot of middle-class people who don't like the status quo, and they want an outsider they can believe in.
That's a perfect setup for this. If you could enact all the policies that you and Bernie Sanders support, what's America look like?
America looks like a more fair place for working people. And look, it's a free enterprise system. It's a system where people can take plenty of initiative and have plenty of rights, but where finally you know that you can get health care, that you're not going to be devastated by a medical bill, that you know your government's actually trying to stop global warming before it destroys the lives of our children and grandchildren. I think...
At what cost?
I think it's
I'm looking at Medicare for all. The estimates are between $14 and $36 trillion.
Right, but
14 at the low end. Green New Deal starts at $10 trillion.
Yeah, Bill,
Where do we get that money?
The problem is, and I take us back to a point Bernie made, a very powerful analogy he made in one of the debates. At the beginning of World War II, we had effectively no military. We weren't ready. And this country, in the course of just 2 or 3 years, produced the greatest military in the world, drove back the Nazis and the Japanese. This country, when focused, can do amazing things. We have to stop global warming, and we have to get health care to our people.
Give me a state other than Vermont where Bernie Sanders beats Donald Trump.
Oh, my God, that polling is consistent, including some of your own polling by this network.
In
the vast majority of polls.
Here's an example, then. Florida is going to be hotly contested yet again. Just in the last week or so, this is what we heard from Bernie Sanders. Just watching.
It's unfair to simply say everything is bad. You know, when Fidel Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program.
You know what? I think teaching people to read and write is a good thing. That Cuba made progress on education. Yes, I think, really? Really? Yep. And when dictatorships, whether it is the Chinese or the Cubans, do something good, you acknowledge that.
You've heard all those comments.
Sure.
How does that win in Florida?
Bill, I don't think that's what people are caring about when they cast their vote. They care about their jobs, their families, the health care their families need. Look, we are not going to replay the Cold War in the 2020 election. The 2020 election is going to be about people's standard of living, about whether the next generation can do better than they have done, which most Americans don't believe right now, and whether we're going to survive on this earth. We can't afford not to make these investments. But here, to your point about winnability, the vast majority of national polls show Bernie Sanders beating Donald Trump, including
I've seen that,
including in Wisconsin, including in Michigan, including in Pennsylvania. Think about working class folks who Bernie can appeal to in a way bluntly no other Democrat can. I think he can pull back some of those votes that Donald Trump.
Let's see how it goes tonight. What is it between you and Mike Bloomberg?
I think what Mike Bloomberg did in this city is only beginning to be recognized. And stop and frisk alone, where he created tremendous division between our police and our community, I think because of his wealth, he got away with a lot. And now there's a reckoning.
You hold that against him?
Of course. I don't hold against the fact that someone worked hard and made money. Listen, you can make money, that's great. But if you use your money to mask a truth, that bothers me. He did a lot of harm here in New York City. A lot of people wouldn't call him out because they were scared of his wealth. Actually, it's pretty amazing. That debate showed democracy is alive and well. It doesn't matter if he's one of the richest guys in the world. That debate showed the truth.
They sent me a long list of allegations and ethics abuses that they would hold against you as mayor.
I'm shocked.
What do you say to that?
First of all, they're wrong. My administration has been there for working people from the beginning, and we are perfectly clean and consistent in what we do. But Mike Bloomberg divided police and community and set us back in a lot of ways, and now the truth is finally coming out.
Is it personal?
It's personal.
Because he did not endorse you during your primary years ago.
No, we disagreed entirely. I would never expect him to. I never would expect him to. It's personal in the sense that we don't have personal chemistry. That's a true statement, but it's much more about beliefs. I don't know how a Democrat, with all due respect, how a Democrat goes and joins the Republican Party for expediency and then supports George W. Bush for president in 2004 and then comes around 2020 and says, I want to be the Democratic nominee.
He said, even against his will, Bernie Sanders is the nominee, he'd support him.
And I admire that. I appreciate that.
Would you support Mike Bloomberg?
Yes.
You would?
Of course. Of course, because even though I disagree with him, I can tell you the things I agree with him on. I think he's very strong, for example, on climate and public health. And he unquestionably, to me, would be a better president than Donald Trump.
Last point. If it's not decided by tomorrow, sometime soon, is Milwaukee going to be a mess in July?
I think what will happen is it won't be tomorrow, but I do think the momentum is with Bernie. When you look at the states up ahead, he's going to do great here in New York. I think he's going to do great in Pennsylvania. Bernie's going to win this by the will of the voters. I don't see a contested convention. I see a Bernie Sanders victory through the voters.
You see him winning Pennsylvania?
Yeah, and I'll tell you something.
Over Joe Biden?
Absolutely, because of the passion that he generates. Working people, young people, we're seeing more and more multi-generational, multiracial coalition. Look, Bernie Sanders gets people to feel something because he's real. They can tell he's actually cares about working people. He's not the status quo.
Sounds like something America was introduced to in 2016. Would you agree?
And I will tell you something. Outsider, Donald Trump wins. Outsider, Barack Obama wins. Outsider, Ronald Reagan wins. When are the pundits going to get the message? Being an outsider is a good thing in America.
I appreciate you being here. I hope you come back, and I hope more people like you come back, because we can have a fair exchange of ideas.
By the way, we all should be talking to each other.
Without taking it up here.
We all should be talking to each other.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Guess what? We're all Americans.
I've got more questions. I hope you come back. Thank you. Bill de Blasio in the studio.